Hi guys, this is Dfs Chan. I'm here to talk about tonight's slate for February 26th. It's a 5-game slate, 3 games in China, 2 games in Korea. So we have a lot to talk about, so let's dive in. So first, the Chinese matchups, Team WE versus Ultra Prime. Ultra Prime is a favorite at minus 185. I chuckle a little bit because these 2 teams are the bottom feeders of the LPL. So it's going to be a toilet bowl, so to speak. But, you know, Ultra Prime has been playing a little bit better. I feel like they've been in a better form than Team WE has. I know Team WE has made some changes, in their roster, which I'll talk about. So maybe they'll shake things up and maybe they'll play better. But for now, Ultra Prime, is a better team slightly, rather less worst, less bad team rather. So let's compare the rosters here today. Look at who's starting in the mid lane for Team WE. It's ZA. He's back. He's a veteran. So he's going to come in and, along with Beishang, and he's been starting the last 3 to 4 games, I believe, 3 to 4 series rather. So he's been, adding some, different elements to the team's win conditions. I think he's more of an aggressive jungler than View was for Team WE. So I like Beishang here. And then ZA, I feel like he's washed up, but it's not like their former mid laner. I think it was Shanks. He was, he wasn't playing well either. So, but the real reason for me for Team WE's struggle is the bottom lane, and that hasn't changed. They didn't make any changes. Stay and Kadaya, as you can see on the screen, the bottom lane for AD carry and the support position for Team WE have been a big liability. Big liability that, they lose the lane and they just let the other team have dominance over the bottom half of the map. So that's a real problem, and Ultra Prime will take an advantage of that. Ultra Prime does not have a strong top half either. But the bottom lane, I trust in them. Elk and Xiaoqi should really smash against Stay and Kadaya. So the strength of UP Ultra Prime is in the bottom lane, in my opinion. And the weakness for Team WE is in the bottom lane. So I think it's a bad matchup for Team WE. I'm pretty confident that Ultra Prime will win. But with ZA and Beishang now in the lineup, there is a good chance they might show up and they may play better. So we'll see what happens. But for now, I have Ultra Prime winning this matchup. And in terms of the kill upside, here I did some research before this video. I mentioned ZA is starting for the Team WE here, but combined kills per minute average for these 2 teams is at 0.87. So that's pretty good. That's really good. That's the best one we have on the slate amongst all 5 games. That correlates with the Vegas kills total over under is at sitting at 26, which is the highest on the slate as well. So an Ultra Prime scores very well for DFS purposes because in their wins, they score their combined kills per minute is at 0.90. Combine that with the combined kills per minute for Team WE and their loss, you can kind of measure the kill upside that way. It's probably the most accurate kill upside, rather, if you, base that on a game narrative as to who's going to win and how they're going to score. So combining them and then averaging them, I think that's the best, best way to measure that, I think. And then Ultra Prime has dominance in the jungle control percentage, but Ultra Prime actually also has slight advantage in the laning phase, in the lanes, and then golds per spent. And then this is it's called PR. I just put it there because I have power rankings that I keep track of, like for myself, as to how those teams perform throughout the season. So I'll update that every week. But on my power rankings, Ultra Prime is 5 steps ahead of Team WE. So that's quite a bit. So I just do not think ZA is going to make that much of a difference. He probably could, but at the end of the day, like I said, the real issue for Team WE is in the bottom lane, and that's where Ultra Prime shines, I think, has the biggest strength in. So my prediction is that Ultra Prime is going to win. I think Team WE is good for GPP consideration, in case that maybe having ZA start can ignite some sparks for that team. So we'll see what happens, but I think both teams have a really good kill upside today in this matchup. But if you have to, if I have to pick one, I think Ultra Prime is going to win today. Pretty confident. Okay, so the next matchup in the LPL is Weibo Gaming, who's been on fire, against OMG, who has not been on fire. OMG started very strong, started the split very strong, but then the last 2-3 weeks they've been on a skid. They're kind of coming back down to earth. I think everybody thought, maybe a lot of people thought that OMG was gonna keep cruising, but LPL's tough. I mean, playing against top Chinese teams, I mean, they were eventually gonna lose. So, but Weibo Gaming, they're very surprisingly doing really well. Obviously with the Shy just playing, not only the best top laner, but best player maybe in the LPL right now. He is just 1v2, 1v3, 1v5 at a point in the mid game I've seen. I mean, he is just wrecking the entire team by himself. He's a problem for other teams. So yeah, let's dive into the roster matchup. I mean, I think the Shy, I mean, like I said, the Shy has an advantage. So the Weibo Gaming has an advantage in the top lane. In the jungle, SFFM, I mean, I think he's been playing okay. I think he's shown a lot of vulnerabilities, but at the same time, he fits well for that team, with playing more of a utility role, in my opinion, for other laners. And Angel has been playing really well, but Cream has been the best player for OMG, in my opinion. So I think that's a wash. And then Huanfeng and On and Abel and Cold, I think that's a wash too. So I think the top lane is probably where Weibo Gaming's biggest win condition is. I know Shanji is not I mean, he's not a scrub either, but the Shy has been just playing out of his mind. So the actual metrics though, kill upside, average combined kills per minute for these two teams is at 0.84. So that obviously that's really good still. Not as quite as high as the first matchup we talked about, but still pretty high. Weibo Gaming, they play kind of slow though in their wins. And then, the OMG has historically, but also continually, this split has been playing really fast, this split. So even when they win, even when they lose, I mean, they're just constantly in fights, 0.93 in wins and 0.94 in losses. So as you can see, that combined kills per minute is brought up by OMG. So I think this is a really good matchup for Weibo Gaming and OMG. I think both teams are in consideration for any contest, cash or GPP. I think Weibo Gaming is gonna win, obviously, but I have OMG for GPP consideration because they just like to fight, I think it's a good kill upside for both teams. So I definitely play both teams, but at the end of the day, I think Weibo Gaming is a much better team. All the metrics point that Weibo Gaming is gonna win. So we'll see what happens there. Now, the third matchup of the day is Team Top Esports versus Edward Gaming. Edward Gaming, they dropped that one series against Weibo Gaming, but then they've won every single other game. So, and they lost to Victory 5, I'm sorry. So they lost to Weibo Gaming and Victory 5, but they're still a late team in my opinion. But Top Esports has been up and down as well. I mean, we joke that Top Esports has been more of like a gatekeeper team, that they beat all the bad teams underneath them in the understandings, and that they lose to all the teams that are above them in the standings. But EDG is obviously above them, so EDG should win here. But let's look at the roster here. As I mentioned, Xiaoxiang is starting in the top lane instead of Flandre. Xiaoxiang is not his first start, so Xiaoxiang and Flandre have been kind of swapping here and there based on how their games go. And I think the fact that they lost to Victory 5, and I think Flandre lost badly against Rich for Victory 5 in the top lane, I think is the coaching staff for EDG have, made that decision to swap in Xiaoxiang here. And they're both good players. I think Flandre is better, but Xiaoxiang is obviously more of a youngster. He is more motivated. He's more hungry to go up against Wayward in the top lane for Top Esports. Top Esports has 3 really good top laners, and they're just swapping, throughout the entire split. And last season, with like Qingtian and Zoom, and so I mean, it's like Wayward. I think he does play the best with Tian. Maybe there's a thing there that Tian's starting and Wayward starting. If Xiao Peng would start for Team Top Esports, maybe somebody else would start like Zoom. So I don't know. It might be a duo thing, but at the end of the day, Wayward is not a bad player. Xiaoxiang is not a bad player, but I think that's a wash. I think that's just both youngsters going at each other. Tian versus JJ. JJ has an advantage there. Obviously, Tian hasn't been playing as well as some junglers in most junglers in the LPL. Knight versus Scout, I think that's a wash. Knight has been bringing up his form a little bit. He was struggling a bit at the early in the split, but I think the last couple weeks he's been playing much better. And Scout had that really bad series against Weibo Gaming, along with JJ, but he's bounced back a little bit too. But he looked kind of outmatched against Victory 5's rookie in the mid lane. So I think he's still going through some struggles. So, but at the same time, Knight has been struggling too. So I think it's a wash. Now the bottom lane is where it gets kind of dicey and interesting, I think, at the same time, because JackeyLove loves to gain advantage and snowball from their early game. He likes to make plays. Obviously, he's more of an aggressive AD carry. He's prone to make mistakes, but he's also willing to make the plays, which is, I think, is a very good type of playing against when you go up against EDG, who is more conservative. They play by the book, so to speak. They try to scale and not make any mistakes. So in order to break through that barrier for EDG, against EDG, I think Top Esports has that kind of play style to be able to spear through that wall, through that little bubble that EDG likes to play in. So I think having JackeyLove actually is going to help Top Esports today. As long as he doesn't go too crazy, I think that's going to be the key to their win condition, to be able to maybe dominate Viper and Mako, and which is really hard to do. Viper and Mako is probably the best bottom duo in the LPL, but JackeyLove and Mark can be that top duo, but their upside is really good, but their downside is really bad too. So we'll see what happens, but let's look at the metrics though. Top Esports versus EDG. Average combined kills per minute is at 0.81. So it's not as high as the first 2 matchups that we just talked about. Here, let's see, EDG plays fast in their wins, but they don't like to give up a lot of deaths in their losses. And then Top Esports plays kind of slow in their wins, and then give up, decent amount of deaths in their losses. So that's very interesting because, I think I put it in here, but Top Esports, let's say they upset EDG, but EDG does not give up a lot of deaths. So I think Top Esports is, DFS upside is very limited today going up against EDG. So we'll see if I play any Top Esports. I think I may just fade Top Esports for GBP as their kill upside is very limited. And on a big slate like this, if you don't want to play like 150 lineups, you do have to take some firm stances on some teams and how you think they'll play out, and that's probably one of the bold takes that I'll have today, that Top Esports will not be in the optimal lineup at the end in the takedown lineup for tonight's slate. EDG has an advantage in the jungle control percentage. Top Esports has a little bit of an advantage in the laning control, but EDG overall is a better team. EDG on the power ranking is obviously ahead of Top Esports. Like I said, Top Esports like in the gatekeeper role in the middle of the standings. So yeah, my prediction is that I think it's going to be a closer matchup than people think. I think people may just pick EDG like blindly, but I think it's going to be a close matchup. Like I said, I mean, I think the way that Top Esports likes to play I think will give EDG some problems. I think Top Esports definitely has a shot tonight. But like I said, I think their kill upside is so limited. I think I'm going to fade them for GPP at the end of the day. All right, let's go over to Korea. KT versus Fred Brion, and then HLE versus HLE versus T1. T1 obviously is the best team in the LCK, so we'll talk about that later. But let's talk about the first matchup between KT versus Brion, which is going to be a more close matchup. KT versus Brion, I think Rascal, yeah, that's all good. And then the starters look good. And then except the jungle position for KT, I think Gideon could start or could sub in, depending on how the game goes, how the series goes. And then for Brion, it's the top lane I would avoid it for sure, because they like to swap in and out for Morgan and Sword, depending on how they feel, what their matchup looks like, and then how the series goes. If they lose game one, they could bring in the other top laner. So, but the rest of the roster, I think is pretty secure that they're going to start and play the whole series. So KT is a favorite at -220. I do think it's a toss-up though at the end of the day. It's just looking at the metrics and everything. Well, first of all, the combined kills per minute is very low compared to the Chinese matchups that we just talked about. Here you can see for the Chinese matchup, they were all above 0.80 or higher, right? But this matchup between KT versus Brion, the average combined kills per minute is at 0.64. So obviously that's really low. And Fred Brion is notoriously known for, having those low kill kind of games. As you can see, Brion's CKPM 0.57, not even 0.6, 0.57 in their wins, and then 0.62 in their losses. And then KT 0.60 and then 0.75 in their losses. So yeah, I mean, both are really low. So I don't think, I think it's maybe wise to avoid this matchup maybe. The Vegas thinks that it's going to be a 22 over under for kills total. So that's really low. That's the lowest on the slate. But just comparing the metrics though, KT has a slight advantage in most of the metrics, but not by much. And I think Fred Brion has a better mid laner in my opinion in Lava. For what it's worth, I don't think KT deserves this high of a favorite odds, but I think KT wins though at the end of the day. I think they're more talented, but I'm fading Fred Brion, and then I may fade KT as well due to their low combined kills per minute, and then they could lose. I mean, like I said, it's going to be a toss-up. So I don't know if I'll have KT. I'll have maybe a little bit of KT, but not very much. All right, the last matchup is more of a very one-sided matchup versus T1 versus HLE. HLE is probably one of the bottom two teams, in my opinion, for me at least, with Brion and then Sandbox. But HLE has been playing a little bit better. And I don't know, I'll show you the roster. I don't know if Samdi will be coming back from the quarantine. I think it's too close to call right now. I think unlike some other teams that I have analyzed before, his announcement came up, his positive test announcement was released like 4 days or 5 days ago. So I think there's still a good chance that he may not be released from the quarantine yet. So that also means Choni could start again for HLE in the AD carry position, which I think he did okay given the circumstances. But I know they lost to, I think, Sandbox that matchup. So I don't think it's an upgrade. I don't think it's a huge downgrade, but I think it's fine. But at the end of the day, they're going up against Gumayushi and Keria, probably the best bottom duo lane in the LCK right now. T1 is a really good team, elite team. I don't think HLE is going to have any shot, in my opinion. I think T1 is going to take care of business. But then T1's going to win. But how is the kill upside, you ask? I think it's going to be limited kill upside. HLE's combined kills per minute is at 0.64 in their wins and then 0.63 in their losses. So it's not like T1 gets a bump on the CKPM by playing against a team like HLE. So I think it's going to be low, but maybe faster than the KT versus Brielle matchup. So T1 may be the safest choice on the slate today, I think. Yeah, I think T1 is the safest choice. And I think their kill upside is not too bad, not the worst, but pretty bad. 0.68 compared to 0.80 or up for all the Chinese games. So, but T1 ain't losing tonight, I don't think. I mean, I think they're going to keep the streak alive. They're still undefeated. They're the only undefeated team in all 4 major regions. So I think T1's going to be proud to maintain that record, especially against a bad team like HLE. I think that's going to be embarrassing if T1 loses there. I just do not see HLE win this matchup. I don't think they're talented enough. I don't think they have the upside to be able to pull it off. So, yeah. So anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. Yeah, if you like the video, please hit the like button and then hit the subscribe button if you're interested in looking at following us, and you'll get notifications if we record another video, like for League of Legends or other traditional sports. We have fantastic group of members, but also sport experts who follow the sports and do well in DFS. So if you are interested in that, please hit the subscribe button, and then let us know if you have any questions. I'll be available on Discord, on YouTube, on Twitter. Hope you have a good night, Friday night, and a good weekend, and hope you guys make some money tonight. All right, have a good one.